Yo, let's talk about the neat little drum mixing trick I discovered recently that I'm gonna call half-sidechaining. So the premise for this is we've got a drum loop here, we've got kick, snare, and percussion. And one of the problems I always have with digital kinds of programmed drums here, these are just samples I dragged in, is that they can sound a bit disjointed and they don't really react to each other. So one common way of kind of dealing with this is I'm gonna get a compressor plus here, just gonna set this to glue and just compress the percussion so it's kind of all glued together. Give it some attack, bit more release here. Just kind of so they start reacting to each other, you know? Then maybe auto gain this back down. And this just kind of compresses them. Makes them sound like they belong together a bit more. Now, these percussion groups, this also has a ghost snare, so I feel like this really should sit together with a snare. But right now we have the problem that this compressor isn't reacting to the snare, it's only reacting to the percussion. So one thing we could do is we could put this on the bus. And now it's both compressing based on the percussion and the snare. But I really liked my snare and I don't want my snare to also be compressed. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put this compressor on the percussion. So it only affects the percussion, but I'm going to make it react to the percussion and to the snare by getting an audio receiver here and getting the drums, snare, drums, snare master post. And now I can kind of blend this in between. Unfortunately, Bitwig doesn't have a sidechain listen function, but basically what we've got on this percussion now, if we mix this all the way, you can see I'm gonna set this to pre of the drums snare, so we can even see it when the snare is muted. You can see how it always reacts. Turn the gain a bit upper. Some shorter attack maybe, you know. So it kind of sidechains the snare to the percussion. And if I mix this in, this both reacts to the snare and to the percussion, and the percussion gets based on a mix of snare and percussion. And now, of course, I can keep this even further. I can maybe get the kick drum and just get the kick master pre, and then put an EQ2 in source effect, so I only compress the percussion based on the highs of the kicks, and the kick won't get compressed. So this is kind of being sidechained to the kick, to the snare, and to the percussion itself, so just being compressed normally. And I can kind of blend in how much it reacts to the kick, how much it reacts to the kick here, to the snare here, and just to the percussion itself. And so these percussions now react to these both other drums, kick and snare, but they're not changing the kick and snare. They're just, the percussion is being changed. So if we listen to this, I'm just going to turn this compressor on and off. And then I'm also just going to put these two in a chain and turn this chain on and off, so you can hear the difference between the half-sidechaining, as I call it, and just compressing just the percussion. So let's do that. You'll see on my screen what I do. I don't want to talk so you can hear it properly. Now, this is without doubt a very subtle effect, and it took me a while to even be able to hear the difference on the percussion if I just compress it. But it really kind of, at least to me, glues them together. You have to kind of learn to listen to the thing as a whole and kind of feel how the drums interact. This is kind of the best way I can explain it. The way they poke out against each other, the way they kind of flow and swim with each other. So yeah, this is quite a subtle effect for sure. But I think this is a really neat trick, and of course, you don't need to stop here. You can, for example, also get an audio receiver and, I don't know, make these react to. I've got a double bass here somewhere. So maybe I want these to be compressed based on the transients of the double bass, or maybe of a guitar or some other percussion. In this way, you can kind of blend between sidechain percussion, a sidechain compression, and standard compression, kind of mix the two to create a gluing effect while keeping your main drum sounds, like the kick and the snare, completely clean, which can be really important in genres like EDM, drum and bass. This can really help control that kind of gluing compression effect. So yeah, that's essentially the technique. If you want this to start making a bit more sense, because maybe you're not that familiar with bass compression, intermodulation, these kinds of phenomena, I've got a video on bass compression, so you can go watch that. And if this didn't make sense, hopefully after seeing that, you can come back to this and it'll make a bit more sense. Or just experiment with this on your own. Of course, you can put these audio receives anywhere and just use their dry and wet mix, source gain, source effects, to kind of create things that react to the thing itself and also another thing without affecting the other thing. You know, I'm bad at wording this, but you just saw the demonstration. So yeah, that's a neat little trick that I started using. I quite like it. I'm gonna keep using it because it's just easy to control. It's very local to the percussion only, but it also is global in the sense to what it reacts. So yeah, thought you might enjoy this too. See you in the next one. Bye.